Welcome to the debate. Imagine signing a multi-year, a massive enterprise cloud contract with a global tech vendor. And the bill for the very first year is exactly $0.
Which sounds insane.
Right? It sounds like a typo. Not a discount, not a deferred payment plan, just $0.
Yeah.
But it's actually happening right now in the real world. For decades, the global IT services industry was built on a very simple, almost industrial-era premise, which is time equals money.
Right, the traditional model.
Exactly. If your corporation needed a massive software implementation, you basically rented a skyscraper full of human capital and you paid for every single hour that those developers sat at their desks. But today, with the integration of artificial intelligence, we are looking at a fundamentally altered landscape.
We really are. And, that $0 contract you just mentioned, it isn't an anomaly. It's a massive flashing warning sign for a $315 billion industry. So the core question we are looking at today is whether the rise of AI permanently destroys this traditional hourly billing model.
Right. And crucially, we need to debate how this shift impacts the competitive balance of the entire tech ecosystem. Like, are we seeing a permanent leveling of the playing field that favors agile, mid-sized companies who can move fast?
Or, and this is exactly where we diverge today, is this current upheaval just a short-term cyclical market reaction, driven by macroeconomic uncertainty, meaning the massive industry giants will inevitably bounce back?
Which is exactly what I'll be arguing.
Right. And I will be arguing that AI fundamentally and irreversibly dismantles the scale and hours model. It prioritizes rapid performance outcomes, which I believe permanently empowers those agile mid-sized firms over the legacy giants.
And I will take the opposing view. I'll argue that this is, a cyclical shift. It is a temporary disruption driven by immense client leverage and inflationary tech bottlenecks. Ultimately, absorbing the shock of the AI transition requires so much capital that the market will inevitably return to an equilibrium favoring the massive scale and deep pockets of the industry giants.
Okay, let's start by looking at the structural reality on the ground right now, because the shift from billing hours to billing for outcomes is not some future projection, it is a current reality.
Sure.
If you look at Tata Consultancy Services, or TCS, their chief executive recently confirmed something staggering. About 80% of their contracts within finance, human resources, and business services are now based on outcome performance measures.
80%.
80%.
That is a big number. But I think context matters when we look at legacy players.
Right. But the crucial context here is that this number has doubled since AI went mainstream in late 2023.
Wow.
Yep, which brings us back to that $0 contract I mentioned in the introduction. HCL Tech forged a multi-year cloud management deal in June 2025 with the German utility giant E.ON.
Okay, heck deal. Because I think if you look at the mechanics of it, it proves my point rather than yours.
How so?
If you are a vendor taking zero revenue for 12 months while still paying your staff to do the work, that doesn't scream, bold new paradigm of efficiency.
No.
No, that screams desperation. How does a company survive that on their balance sheet? They essentially have to internalize the cost as a loss or amortize it across years 2 through 5.
Desperation or just, ultimate confidence in the AI's ability to actually deliver those second-year efficiency gains?
It's desperation driven by client leverage. Look at the AI and automation deal Cognizant struck with Daimler Truck back in February.
Okay.
If you read the underlying financial mechanics there, the AI-related cost savings are explicitly split between the vendor and the client. That is a classic risk-sharing mechanism during a period of massive corporate uncertainty.
Right.
Clients are terrified of making the wrong tech investments right now, so they are forcing vendors to absorb the initial financial risk.
So you don't think this is a permanent structural shift in how tech work is valued?
Not at all. Jimit Arora, the CEO of Everest Group, framed this perfectly. He explicitly called this a, quote, desperate market for service providers. The odds right now are entirely in favor of the clients. The clients know the vendors are terrified of losing market share to AI insourcing.
Meaning clients just doing the work themselves.
Exactly. Doing it themselves with AI tools. So they are squeezing the vendors on price and terms.
Wait, I have to push back on that.
Because I don't think it's mere leverage. I think it's a fundamental change in the physics of the work itself.
The physics?
Yeah. Let's use an analogy. The old billable hours model is essentially like paying for a taxi by the minute while you're sitting in gridlock traffic.
Okay.
You are paying for the time, the idle labor, the inherent inefficiency of the journey. AI is like someone suddenly inventing a teleporter. It instantly gets you to the destination.
Right.
So if I can offer you a teleporter for a flat fee based on you successfully arriving, why would you ever as a client go back to paying for the traffic of human labor?
I love the teleporter analogy, I really do, but let's stay in that world for a second.
Sure.
Have you considered what it takes to actually build and operate your theoretical teleporter?
Well, obviously there are upfront costs.
Huge costs. It requires a staggering amount of infrastructure, capital, and specialized silicone. You are assuming the transition from taxi to teleporter is frictionless and free. It isn't.
Right.
The client might not want to pay for the traffic anymore, but someone has to pay to build the teleporter grid.
Yes, but once the teleporter is built, the marginal cost of sending the next person drops to near zero. And the client leverage you're talking about exists precisely because the technology has exposed the inefficiency of the old taxi model.
I'm not denying the inefficiency.
But clients are using AI to shift lower-level tasks in-house, which means if vendors want to survive, they can't just share risk temporarily. They have to entirely abandon the taxi meter.
But abandoning the taxi meter requires a financial cushion that only the largest players have. I mean, we're arguing that headcount scale is dead, which implies the giants are dead and the mid-sized firms are taking over.
The data certainly argues that headcount scale is dead as a competitive moat. Let's contextualize this for our listeners. Look at the nifty IT index.
Right, the benchmark index.
Right, tracking the titans of India's tech outsourcing sector. It tumbled by a fifth this year. We are talking about its 10 constituents losing a combined $73 billion in market value.
It's a massive hit. Absolutely.
It is a hemorrhage. If we look at the big IT firms specifically, TCS, Infosys, Wipro, HCL Tech, they've seen incredibly subdued growth recently, hovering right around 1 to 3%.
Now contrast that with the mid-sized agile firms. Persistent saw their revenue surge 16% in the April to June quarter. Coforge saw sales jump by a third. Both of these mid-sized providers have seen revenue grow by double digits for at least 8 consecutive quarters.
I don't dispute the short-term growth metrics of Persistent or Coforge, but we have to ask why they are winning right now.
Because agility and technological integration now trump raw human scale. Phil First at HFS Research noted that clients today demand rapid development of AI pilot programs.
Yes, pilot programs.
They want proof of concept in weeks, not years. And Tier 2 firms are winning these mandates because they deploy senior leaders quickly and offer highly flexible pricing. The old giants are bogged down by their own massive scale and, rigid corporate structures. In a market demanding rapid AI-driven outcomes, being a massive ocean liner is a liability, not an asset.
But look at the flip side of that. We must distinguish between winning a sprint and winning a marathon.
Okay.
Mid-sized firms are absolutely winning pilot programs right now. As First pointed out, they are hungry in this phase. It is relatively easy for a Tier 2 firm to deploy their absolute best top-tier senior talent to secure a rapid AI pilot.
Yeah.
But if you're a CIO or tech executive listening to this, you know the real challenge isn't building the pilot.
You mean scaling it across the enterprise?
Exactly. Can a firm like Coforge scale that bespoke, senior-led pilot across a global, deeply regulated enterprise environment?
Well, they're starting to.
Winning a mandate for a pilot program is fundamentally different from executing a multi-year, multi-billion-dollar digital transformation for a Fortune 50 company.
True.
When you integrate AI into a massive bank, you have to deal with 30-year-old legacy mainframes, compliance standards, and massive cybersecurity risks.
Oh, sure.
The giants might be slow to turn, but they possess deep institutional integration with these clients.
I agree that enterprise integration is incredibly complex, but if the core mechanism of delivery has shifted from throwing armies of junior developers at a problem to using AI-assisted outcomes, why do you need the giants at all?
For the infrastructure.
But the mid-sized firm can use the same foundational AI models to punch way above its weight.
They don't need 100,000 employees to map a legacy mainframe anymore if the AI can do 80% of the code translation.
Because of what I mentioned earlier, the cost of the teleporter. The financial moat required to absorb the massive capital expenditures that AI actually demands is completely insurmountable for a mid-sized firm in the long run.
You really think so?
Absolutely. Which brings us to the macroeconomic reality of this technology, which I think is severely misunderstood in the current narrative.
I'm really glad you brought this up, because this is where the debate gets fascinating. You're saying Tier 2 firms don't have deep enough pockets for the long haul.
Right. But from my perspective, the macro reality aligns perfectly with the micro-level client demands for steep price cuts and deflationary efficiency.
If AI does the work cheaper, prices go down.
That is the prevailing narrative, sure, that AI lowers costs across the board. But let's look at the actual economic analysis from the Swiss National Bank.
Okay.
Petra, a governing board member of the SNB, pointed out that AI actually redirects massive investment flows, which causes severe difficulties and adjustments for the rest of the economy.
In what way? Are we talking about supply chain bottlenecks?
Precisely. The digital world might be getting cheaper, but the physical world is not. We are seeing intense shortages, particularly with semiconductor chips, data center real estate, and power grid infrastructure, which is causing prices in the tech supply chain to skyrocket.
Right, NVIDIA chips and all that.
Exactly. Chudin explicitly warned that in the short to medium term, AI creates upward inflationary pressure. Absorbing these infrastructure bottlenecks, paying the premium for compute power and specialized silicon from companies like TSMC, it requires a fortress of capital.
I see the logic there, but I think the data tells a different story if you look past the immediate supply chain friction.
Friction. It's a massive roadblock.
Yes, building the infrastructure for AI requires heavy capital investment today, which creates temporary shortages in chips. But we have to look at what that infrastructure actually produces. In the longer term, AI fundamentally lowers prices by exponentially increasing productivity.
But that productivity gains doesn't magically negate the input costs of the hardware and energy. I mean, you still have to pay the power bill.
It does if it makes the final output intrinsically cheaper to produce. This isn't just an abstract economic theory, it is exactly what we are seeing in the IT contracts right now.
How so?
Well, Eon and Daimler Truck are demanding outcome-based pricing precisely because they know that technology drives down the fundamental cost of production. The deflationary power of AI productivity far outweighs the temporary inflationary pressure of buying the servers.
See, that is exactly the misconception that central bankers are trying to correct right now. Productivity gains do not automatically equal structural deflation.
Hold on. Before we move past that, let's clarify this concept for our listeners. Explain the difference between a one-time price drop in software services and actual structural deflation.
Sure.
Because if my operational cost dropped by 60% thanks to AI, that certainly feels like deflation to me.
It feels like it to the client, yes. But Silvana Tenreiro, the recent chief economist at the International Monetary Fund, explicitly warned in research published by the Bank of England that even if AI heavily boosts productivity, it may not actually lower inflation.
Really?
Yeah. Petra reinforced this exact point. For a technology to have a true deflationary effect on the economy, what economists call structural deflation, the price declines it causes must repeat themselves regularly year after year, because inflation is calculated on an annual basis.
Okay, I follow you. So a massive one-time drop isn't structural.
Right. A one-time drop in the cost of executing a finance or HR process is exactly that. It's a one-time shock to the price level. It is the market resetting the baseline price of software services.
Okay.
Once that baseline is reset, once everyone has adjusted to the new, cheaper reality, the fundamental laws of economics return. You still need massive capital to compete, to buy the latest generation of chips, to secure the energy grid for your data centers.
Right, I see where you're going.
Therefore, this current trend in IT, these drastic outcome-based price cuts, is a one-time adjustment. It is not permanent structural deflation.
But that one-time adjustment you're describing is exactly what destroys the legacy hourly billing model.
Well, wait.
Think about it. If the baseline price of software services is completely reset, if the cost of executing a process drops by 60% because AI automates the coding and testing, You can no longer sustain a business model that relies on charging for the hours of 300,000 employees.
I'm not saying the model doesn't change.
But the structural deflation might not repeat annually across the broader consumer economy, sure. But within the $315 billion Indian IT sector, the deflation of human labor value is permanent.
The deflation of human labor value, sure, I'll grant you that.
Exactly, and that is why the demarcation of a scale player only by revenue or headcount is no longer a valid metric. When a client can shift routine tasks in-house using AI, the sheer size of an IT vendor ceases to be a core value proposition.
Right.
The mid-size firms aren't just winning pilots. They are demonstrating that you simply don't need a massive employee base to deliver massive outcomes anymore.
But look at the flip side of that equation. If the value of human labor in IT deflates, then the value of proprietary AI models, computing power, and strategic integration inflates.
Sure, the value shifts.
And who has the billions of dollars required to build proprietary, enterprise-secure AI models and weather the chip shortages? It is TCS, Infosys, and Cognizant.
Even with that $73 billion hit to their market cap?
Yes, that hit is real. The market punished them for having legacy models, but it is a transitionary hit. They are rejigging their business models, as you noted yourself with the 80% outcome-based contracts at TCS.
Yeah, they are adapting.
They are shifting to these contracts not because they are defeated, but because they are adapting to the new baseline. Once the dust settles, the clients will still want the safety, security, and capital backing of a giant, especially when navigating the massive legal and operational risks of AI implementation at scale.
You think the mid-tiers can't handle that risk?
A mid-sized firm growing at 30% today simply doesn't have the balance sheet to absorb long-term inflationary supply chain shocks, or, heaven forbid, a massive compliance failure.
That's a fair point.
The giants do. The competitive modes haven't disappeared. They have just transitioned from human headcount to capital infrastructure.
As we step back to look at the entire landscape, I think we've illuminated a profound tension at the heart of the tech economy today. My position remains that AI has irreparably shifted the valuation of services from human scale to measurable outcomes. The traditional billable hour, heavily reliant on massive headcounts, has been exposed as a fundamental inefficiency. And the fact that agile mid-sized firms like Coforge and Persistent are experiencing sustained double-digit growth while the giants stagnate proves that the door has been permanently opened for a new, leveled, competitive playing field.
And I maintain that this disruption, while incredibly severe, is fundamentally cyclical. The macroeconomic bottlenecks, from chip shortages to the immense capital required to sustain AI infrastructure, mean that scale will eventually matter again.
Right.
The current client leverage and the resulting desperate market for vendors will stabilize. As the IMF and S&B analyses point out, productivity shocks do not equate to permanent structural deflation. The giants will absorb these transitionary costs, leverage their deep pockets, and return to dominance just under a different contractual framework.
We certainly find common ground on the sheer magnitude of this disruption. Both of us agree that AI has severely shocked the Indian IT sector, forcing vendors of all sizes to immediately adapt to clients who are aggressively demanding more productivity for significantly less money.
Absolutely. Dollar first-year deals and the macro-level economic forecasts.
Yeah, you need both.
To truly understand technology transitions, you cannot just look at software capability. You have to look at monetary reality.
Very true.
There is much more to explore here, particularly regarding how central bank policies will interact with tech sector pricing moving forward. The S&B currently has a 0% interest rate, and their conditional forecast sees inflation staying within their 0 to 2% target range all the way up to the first quarter of 2029.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So how those capital conditions affect the ability of IT firms to invest in physical AI infrastructure will be absolutely critical to watch.
Indeed. It all comes back to that central tension. Are we looking at a temporary traffic jam? Or has someone finally built a teleporter that changes the rules of transit forever? We will leave it to you, the listener, to form your own conclusion on whether the hourly billing model is truly dead or merely hibernating while the giants rebuild their moats.